ACSI and the retiring Chief Executive of Australian Super. Ian?
Thanks, Ali, and good morning, everyone. I'd also like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the various lands on which we're meeting today. In my case, here in Melbourne, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. And I extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people participating in this conference. A very warm welcome to you all. Today's program includes an excellent lineup of speakers who I'm sure will make it an informative and insightful day for us all. A lot's happened since ACSI's last conference 2 years ago. Few of us would have predicted the scale and reach of the pandemic, nor the challenges it's presented all of us. For super funds, as long-term investors, prudent stewardship of members' savings has never been more important. With ACSI celebrating its 20th birthday, it's timely to reflect on how far the management of ESG issues has come since 2001. 2 decades of active company engagement and research on ESG issues has supported ACSI members in building retirement savings for superannuation fund members. In 2020 alone, ACSI held more than 300 company meetings with almost 200 ASX listed companies. ACSI conducts a comprehensive company engagement program on many ESG issues, including climate change, executive remuneration, ESG disclosure standards, and diversity on boards. I'm delighted to say that boards have listened and responded. The level and quality of ESG reporting in the ASX 200 has significantly improved over the past 2 decades. For example, where only 39 companies reported at a level considered leading in 2008, that number now stands at 120. Importantly, now only 13 companies are not reporting any ESG disclosures. This increase in transparency and accountability helps the superannuation sector assess ESG investment risk and effectively engage with companies to seek improvements in performance. Investing in the best financial interests of super fund members means being active on ESG issues today so that the funds can deliver strong financial performance in the future. In most cases, there is a clear relationship between a company's performance on ESG issues, its corporate performance, and its investment performance for investors, including ultimately members of super funds. The recent release of the end of financial year investment results of super funds yet again demonstrates that, as a rule, the funds that treat ESG seriously are the funds that perform best in absolute and relative terms. This is no surprise to those of us who recognise that most strong performing companies are those that take ESG issues seriously in the running of their businesses. And similarly, investors who embed ESG considerations in their investment programs are those that typically generate the strongest investment performance. ESG issues are ultimately investment and financial issues. It's not magic, it's just smart investing. Super funds are being challenged, including by regulators as well as members, to do more on ESG issues. And that's why the work of ACSI is so important. For example, climate change remains one of the most pressing ESG issues facing investors today. Australian companies are heavily exposed to climate change risks, with regulators clearly outlining their expectations for companies and investors in addressing those risks. ASIC has noted that, quote, disclosing and managing climate-related risk is a key director responsibility, unquote. APRA has similarly said that climate risks are, quote, material, foreseeable and actionable now, unquote. Internationally, the pace of action on climate change is increasing rapidly. 68% of the world's GDP is covered by net zero commitments at or near mid-century. Globally, investors are increasingly focused on ESG issues. For example, the International Principles for Responsible Investment was established in 2006. And since that time, it has gained 4,000 signatories, representing over 104 trillion US dollars in assets under management, and all of whom have committed to integrating ESG in their investment processes. However, progress on this front and the consequent financial benefit for members of super funds would be threatened by recent proposals released by the federal government. For those who haven't done so, I recommend reading ACSI's submission regarding the proposals. Today, I briefly want to address a couple of the proposals, including the proposal that would require super funds to be independent of proxy advisors. Proxy advisors provide investors with a level of analysis that would be difficult and more costly to generate themselves. ACSI helps super funds be more efficient by pooling resources to ensure they are comprehensively and independently informed. The government's proposal would ultimately undermine the financial outcomes for superannuation beneficiaries by rendering this system less effective. Both the Business Council of Australia and the Australian Institute of Company Directors have rejected the proposal that targets ACSI. In 2018, ASIC reviewed the proxy advice sector and found no issues. In the 3 years since this review, there have been only 2 complaints made against any proxy advice reporter across the market. Super funds are required by law to act in the best financial interest of their members, and through ACSI membership, they are doing just that. The government proposal to make super funds independent from a proxy advisor, read ACSI, is counter to this. As president of ACSI over these past 4 years, I've been honoured to be part of the organisation's important work on ESG issues. My term as ACSI president expires shortly, and this will be the last time I address the ACSI conference as president. I'm pleased today, delighted in fact, to announce that the ACSI board has elected the next ACSI president who will succeed me when my term expires next month, and that is Debbie Blakey, the Chief Executive Officer of HESTA. Debbie has been a strong advocate of the importance of focusing on ESG issues and will be an excellent president, supporting the ACSI team on delivering outcomes in the best financial interests of millions of superannuation fund members. I'd like to thank and acknowledge the terrific contribution of ACSI's Deputy President, Anthony Thao, whose term is also ending. And I'm thrilled to announce that the new Deputy President of ACSI will be Michelle Gardner, the Trustee Director of Care Super. And I want to recognise Louise Davidson, who has done a magnificent job as Chief Executive Officer of ACSI whilst I've been President. It's been a privilege to work alongside her and observe her leadership and the great contribution she's made to the investment industry in Australia. And finally, I'd observe that over the past 2 decades, ESG issues have helped shape the global landscape. The more insight and understanding we have on the risks and opportunities they present, the better the financial outcomes will be for companies, investors, and importantly for super fund members. The ACSI conference today gives us the opportunity to hear from a fantastic range of speakers and be exposed to new ideas. At the end of the conference, I trust that we'll all be in a better position to use ESG considerations to enhance corporate and investment performance and ultimately improve the retirement savings of superannuation fund members. Thank you. Thanks, Ali.